welcome to my channel. My name is Jolie. Today I want to talk a little bit about transitioning your 1-year-old to a toddler bed. So when I first kind of threw out this idea, I was told by a lot of moms to keep my baby in a crib as long as possible, right? Direct quote from several moms. Keep them in there as long as possible. Keep them confined. So when my son was about 16 months old, we actually made that transition. We had bought him a toddler bed several months prior, shortly after he turned 1, and we didn't set it up because we had a trip coming up, and I thought it might confuse him if we transitioned to a toddler bed and then he had to stay in the crib or a pack and play while we were on vacation. And looking back, I think I would have just done it anyway because I think he would have been fine. As far as I know, he still sleeps in a crib at daycare, and I know he does when he is with his grandparents. So I don't think that would have been as big of a deal as I think it would have been. I think it's completely fine for him to have one sleeping arrangement with one person and a different sleeping arrangement when he's here at home. I don't think that that's too confusing for him. So that was kind of one of my pushbacks on it and why I even waited until 16 months. But 16 months is still relatively early for transitioning. Now, I looked into it a lot, and for young kids, I didn't find a ton of info. So I wanted to throw out there my experience and my quick little tips of what I think helped transition if you're a mom who's looking to transition your young toddler into a toddler bed. And this is my dog Conway, and apparently he's going to join me. Hi Conway. Hi. And so, let's dive right into it. I have a couple of notes here on my phone that we can talk about here. So my number one tip is lay the foundation early. So this starts with good sleep habits. If you're going through another transition, such as pulling a pacifier or bringing a new baby home, transitioning to a toddler bed that's probably not the best time to do it all at once. Now, if you can do it and it goes great for you, more power to you, but personally, I would do them separate. This also, lay the foundation early. I also mean that in the sense that if your kid is waking up multiple times a night, this probably isn't going to help that. Or if they're having trouble going down to bed, this probably isn't going to help that. And then my last bit when it comes to lay the foundation early is set up the room how it will be set up when you transition them. So about a month before we set up his toddler bed, we moved the crib to the spot that his toddler bed would be in. So that way he got used to being on that side of the room. When he looked up, he saw the same view as when he was in his crib. So it wasn't a huge change. When he laid on his side, he saw the same thing out. So I think that that's probably helped a little bit as well. My number 2 is when you set it up, allow time to explore. So when we set it up, we had him take his morning nap, and that was kind of a longer nap, and then we set it up after that. So he had several hours between when he was introduced to the bed and when it was bedtime to explore. So we let him go in there, we let him play, we read books in his bed. He also has a little book corner, and so we read books in that corner and really just let him go in and out of there with toys and all that kind of stuff before bed. Now, as far as the sleep environment, I kept that exactly the same as when he was in his crib. So he has a mattress, he has a fitted sheet, and he has 2 tiny little stuffed animals that he sleeps with, and I just kept it completely the same. I didn't make any changes to that. Number 3 tip would be baby-proof the entire room. So make sure there's nothing that they can pull down on them, like a lamp cord or anything like that. Remove distracting toys when it comes to bedtime. We have like a low bookshelf in his little book nook that he has books, board books, because I don't want him ripping pages out of nice books. So that he has some board books in there that he can play with. And then he has his 2 little stuffed animals that he sleeps with that he can play with while he's in there too. And then I also have on here, if they can reach the doorknob, I would baby proof the door. Everett, when we transitioned him, was not at that stage, but they're so used to being confined to a crib that being confined to a whole room is already a huge leap of freedom, right? So they don't need to be running around your whole entire house at 3 a.m. So yeah, I would baby proof the door too if your child is able to get out of their room. Well, people do this different ways. Some people do like the little child doorknob thing, right? And then some people allow them to have their door open, but they put a baby gate up on this side of the door, so that way they can open the door, but they can't get out. So whatever you want to be there, I would recommend doing something like that if your child is at that stage. Number 4, and this is probably the biggest one, is look for sleepy cues before you put your child down, and keep your routine. So most parents are probably in those routines. By the time your child's 1, you can probably recognize most of their sleepy cues. So for Everett, when he's tired, he rubs his eyes. That's kind of our number 1. And then he gets really giggly. And it's like delusionally giggly. And so those are kind of our cues that, oh, it's time to start bedtime routine or head in there for a nap. And so yeah, so look for those sleepy cues and then keep your routine exactly the same. So this kind of goes with laying the foundation early as well. If you don't have a bedtime routine, I would start a bedtime routine at least a month prior while they're still in their crib and get them used to it. This looks different for different families. It can be a long, drawn out bath time, brush your teeth, get your jammies on, read a book, sing a song, and go to bed every single night. It can be long like that, or it can be jammies, sing a song, put them in bed, and say the same thing every single night. And so for us, we say, or I say, I love you, good night, and I walk out. And my husband has like a little song that he sings, and then he says, you're brave, strong, and tough, and he walks out. So it can look different for different people in your family, and that's fine, but it's just some cue words or a cue series of events that happen that cue your child in on, it's time for me to go to bed. And I think that that is probably a huge reason why Everett stays in his bed when he is put down to bed. I think that those cues of having that routine really set us up for success on that. Number 5, keep the bed low. I wouldn't, there's parents that have done it and they've had success with it, doing like a big queen bed right away or up off the ground twin bed right away. I wouldn't do that. I would do something low to the ground. Everett's bed is literally on the floor. Like, I'll insert some pictures if I can here. But I would keep it low because they're going to roll out. They're probably going to roll out, or they're going to be trying to get out. And so, once again, I think that's kind of a safety thing. And so, along with this, know that they're going to roll out and have a plan to redirect them if they get out. So, I can count on one hand the number of times that Everett in the past 4 months has gotten out of his bed and went to explore his room, right? Usually it's in the mornings when I'm teaching classes, he wakes up, he runs over to his books, and he goes back to bed. Or he'll go to the door and he will knock on the door, right? And he'll say, Mama or Dada, and that's it. But there was, on our second day of transition, so his first nap time in there, he got out of his bed and he was exploring, and so have a plan to redirect in that instance. What do? Do you give them 10 minutes? Do you give them 5 minutes? Do you give them 15 minutes? Or do you just let them figure it out and they'll probably go to sleep, or you'll skip a nap? Have a plan and talk it over with your spouse and make sure you're on the same place, or your spouse, or if you have a nanny that watches your child in your home, or your mother or mother-in-law, whoever is going to be in that space doing bedtime or nap time routine with them. Have a plan and talk about that plan. The day after we transitioned him during nap time, he was over reading a book, and we're like, oh, that's cute, whatever. Give him 10 minutes, and then we went in there, we picked up the books, we kept it very simple. We didn't talk, we didn't do anything like that. Picked him up, put him back in bed, and I said the same, I love you, good night, and walked out. And there was no fuss, no muss. He rolled over and he went down for nap. So, and I know I say good night at nap time, but it's just an easy phrase for me to keep the same. Also, I guess, when it comes to rolling out, have a plan there too. Do you go in and move them? Do you not? I will say that by a couple weeks into it, he was getting up and moving back to his bed on his own. So I didn't have to go in and move him out. Occasionally, I think there was one time last week, but other than that, he hasn't had a rollout situation in a couple months. And so when he rolled out last week, my husband did go in there and move him back to his bed. And he just picked him up and cuddled him for a minute. I take advantage of those little moments to cuddle because my son, when he was in his crib, he would push me away and wave goodbye. And that was my cue to put him in his bed because he was just ready for it. He knew our bedtime routine. He knew what the steps were. And when we got to the last step, he pushed me away and waved goodbye because he knew it. He knew that that was the end of it and that he was done. If you lay that foundation and you have a good setup, you're going to succeed. I think it's a lot harder on us mommies than it is on them. It's a lot bigger change for us because we feel like they're growing up and we're allowing them more freedom, and it can get kind of scary. And of course, every child is different. And if your child struggles at nap time, they just might need a few extra days, but stay consistent and you'll get there and it'll be great. Anyways, so I hope that these couple of quick tips here helped you out. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and click that subscribe button. I will be doing a tour of Everett's room here shortly and posting that, and we have some other exciting content coming out this month as well, so be sure you click that subscribe button and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!